start with Galina's presentation. But first of all, Galina, very much welcome today. And maybe you can give a short introduction about yourself, what actually inspired you to join this career path.
Welcome to everyone who has joined this webinar with a very interesting title, Get Dressed for the Textile Strategy. So I'm Galina. As already mentioned, I'm part of the global sustainability team at CNA. I'm a sustainability professional. And what inspired this career path was maybe my childhood dream to actually work for people. So in kindergarten, when the teachers asked me what do I want to work, I always responded, I want to work with people. Maybe what I missed at that time is that I should have added with people and for the planet, because that's all sustainability is. And eventually I started my career in business development. It had nothing to do with sustainability, but eventually I realized that long term I want to do something meaningful. And then I decided to pursue this path. I realized that I needed to work more on my credentials, so I signed up to the Sustainable Business Program at the University of Cambridge, which gave me a lot of insights and opened a lot of doors for me. And here I am. I have been part of CNA for about 5 years, working on various sustainability issues, and for the past 1.5 years on EU policy as well.
Okay, that's very interesting, and actually it's quite a good topic that people are trying to get into, so sustainability is very important, so we need more people like you. And we have a presentation by you where you're going to actually have a look at what CNA does and what it's going to do in regards to this sustainable strategy, so take the floor.
Thank you. So I have prepared a couple of slides. I'll share my screen. Okay, I put it on slideshow, and you tell me if it's working, and if not.
We can see it so far. Just put it in presentation mode. You need to do the switch in the top left.
Okay. Wait 1 second. Okay.
Yep, we're good.
All right. Technology is on our side today, for now. All right. So first of all, I want to say a couple of words about CNA in case the audience is not well acquainted with the company. So CNA is a global retailer, probably one of the most enduring and old ones. We have 180 years of history. It is a family-owned company, and currently it is operating in 4 markets. So we have more than 1,400 stores in Europe, and we have stores also in Brazil, China, and Mexico. And of course, we're also actively present in the online space. So it is a huge company with a very long history, which actually gives very strong values for embedding sustainability in the business. And right now, we have just actually finished our 2020 Global Sustainability Framework. We are just about to launch our new strategy coming out in 2 weeks, so stay tuned. But what we have been focusing in the past year has been on sustainable products, sustainable supply, and sustainable lives. So later in the presentation, when I speak about the EU textile strategy, I will focus on a couple of key achievements that could be of interest to you and best practices for the audience. Okay, so why a new textile strategy and how it can help? So if I'm not aware of the background of the audience on this call, I assume that people have some policy background, but I assume that some people don't have that. So I decided to present 3 stories related to what is currently in the text of the EU textile strategy. Actually, it's only a roadmap that is out there. And with the stories, I want to show that there are very good things already happening in the industry, specifically done by CNA. I also want to show why using these good practices into consideration of the EU textile strategy will actually make things good for the consumers, for the average people. Because in the end of the day, in sustainability, we need changes at scale. We can't have just like niche products that only rich people can buy. The environmental challenges are much bigger than just a couple of thousands people that can afford sustainable clothing. So at CNA, we're saying that we want to make sustainability the norm. We want to produce affordable and sustainable clothing that can reach out a wide pool of consumers. So I have written here that I will say these 3 stories with a big disclaimer, because keep in mind that I will show like best practices, what we're currently doing and what we're proud of, but I don't want to leave the impression that everything is fine with the industry or CNA has nailed it all. That this is not the case. So we have achieved a lot, but we also acknowledge that we have a long way to go. And this is, and actually the launch of our new sustainability strategy sets our ambition bar very high. And you will see that very soon in the media in about 2 weeks. Okay, maybe just before I start, can I just add something, Richard, to your introduction? Maybe it's good for the audience to know that the EU textile strategy so far doesn't have legislative nature. So it's an overarching umbrella that sets the vision of where the Commission wants the textile industry to go, but it's not a legislation for the time being. Of course, it is built upon other legislative pillars like the sustainable products, green claims and empowering consumers, and the due diligence upcoming legislation. So it's built upon those 3 pillars, but the strategy itself doesn't have a legislative nature. All right, here we go. So my first story is related to empowering consumers to make more sustainable choices. And here we go. So 2 weeks ago, I was preparing myself to go on holiday, and I decided to go to CNA to shop some clothes for my 16-month-old son, for myself, if I have time, and for my husband. So I entered the CNA store, and the situation I am now is that I'm a young person, I'm a young mother. I'm super fond of buying sustainable clothing. And I entered the CNA store, and because I have a child, I have exactly 60 minutes to shop, because after 60 minutes, I need to exit that store, take the metro, and go pick up my son. I have no additional time. And I entered the store, so for those 60 minutes, I have to choose what clothes I want to buy for my son, for myself. But I also want these clothes to be sustainable, right? So how do I do this? Specifically at CNA, it's easy to choose more sustainable pieces of clothing. And on the slide, you see that all more sustainable pieces of clothing are marked with a green bubble. So it's easy to, when you check to look for these green bubbles, it's either bio-cotton or it's recycled materials or more sustainable viscose. So we provide an easy choice to the customer. So for 60 minutes, I did what I could do. I bought everything that I needed and I exited and I went to pick up my son. I'm saying this because many customers are in the same situation that I am. They have very limited time, but they have a very strong desire to shop sustainably. But right now, the situation that we have is that consumers in fashion are lost in a jungle of sustainability labels. Every brand is using different labels. Some are not backed up by third-party certification like we do at CNA. So there is no comparability, and there is also is missing a certain level of reliability. And this is what the EU textile strategy wants to bring through the empowering consumers pillar. They want to put, let's say, the same rules on the market when brands and retailers are making sustainability claims, so that consumers have easy choice to shop more sustainably. And there are already great things happening out there, like in the case of CNA, that all of our sustainability claims are backed up by third-party verified certification. But of course, it's a long way to go to make it scalable for the whole industry. So definitely this is something that we as consumers can gain from the EU textile strategy. My second story is related to enabling the circular economy. So Richard pointed it out correctly that currently we are operating not only in fashion, I think in general, still in a linear model of the economy, meaning that we produce, we use, and we throw away. And this doesn't work for the future generations and for us as well. So we need to enable circularity, and we need to enable a closed loop of produce, use, reuse, or recycle, and then again going back to the loop. And this is the other huge piece that the EU textile strategy is focusing through the Sustainable Products initiative, that is focusing on indeed creating incentives for brands to recycle, creating incentives for brands to work on the durability of the clothings, so that less clothings are out there in landfill or incinerated. And in general, to work on fibers that are more sustainable. And what we are doing at CNA is we are very proud that we're one of the brands that has launched more than 4 million pieces of cradle-to-cradle certified. This may not ring a bell to many people, but actually it's probably the highest, one of the most recognized standards of circularity of products. It doesn't exist only in fashion. Actually, it exists in other industries as well. Recently, for example, I bought an ironing board, which is cradle-to-cradle certified. So it's a cross-industry standard, but specifically in fashion, what it means is that the products, specifically at CNA, are made from 100% organic cotton. They're made from safe chemicals. They are produced with 100% of renewable energy. Safe and fair labor has been ensured in the factories that has been done. And the product itself is designed to be recycled. So if you buy a t-shirt, which is cradle-to-cradle certified, and you have worn it for a couple of years and you want to throw it away, you can either put it in a compost, or you can bring it to actually our stores or any other stores that are collecting garments, and it can be easily recycled. I will emphasize on the word easily, because recycling is another big topic. Most of the clothes that are on the market nowadays, they're not easily recycled. They have a lot of components, and that's the reason why the percentages of recycled material is so low, as mentioned by Richard in the beginning. And that's actually related to the circular economy piece. At CNA, we have a We Take It Back scheme, where we collect unwanted or unneeded clothes or textiles. It doesn't matter whether you have bought it from CNA. You can bring any type of textiles to the store. You can even bring your like bathroom clothes or something. We will all collect that, and we use with a third party that is helping us process that waste and recycle it. if you enter the stores in Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, and Austria, you will find this box where you can throw away your clothes and contribute to circular economy. And also we have that in Germany and France online. And I wanted to share with you a brief video on circularity at CNA. I think it's quite interesting to see how the system works. So I will play it now. It's a short one, and I hope you will enjoy it.
Every second, the equivalent of one garbage truck of textiles is landfilled or incinerated, and less than 1% of all apparel is recycled into new textiles. From raw material extraction to end use, the apparel sector has a significant impact on the environment and on local communities. We must shift our industry from a model of take, make, use and dispose to one where every apparel product is designed for its next use, where ecosystems are protected, and where people are provided with dignified work. This is the philosophy of circular fashion. At C&A, we aim to take responsibility and have designed a three-pronged strategy to do our part. First, by developing a garment collection scheme in the retail markets we operate in, where our customers can return unwanted clothing for reuse and recycling. Second, through support.
I think
it stopped moving.
it stopped in the...
You need to press play and then move the bar.
It's starting from the beginning. So, okay, probably there is something wrong with it. Was just in the end, actually. But this video is actually on YouTube, so I can send it around to the audience. It's a pity that we couldn't watch it. Yeah. Let me just try once again to push it.
It doesn't seem to be working, but maybe you can verbally just explain what the last part is. That might.
Yeah. So I mean, verbally, what the last part is related to what I just mentioned before about how we embed circularity at CNA, about the cradle-to-cradle certified products. We take it back scheme. So we want to have all of this, ecosystem to enable circular economy, which is actually in alignment with the visions of the Circular Economy Action Plan of the European Commission, especially the piece focusing on textiles. Okay, good. And then my last story is in relation to due diligence, and there is the piece on human rights, safe and fair labor. This is under the pillar of sustainable corporate governance that the Commission is working on. And that really goes about the social sustainability of the supply chain. CNA supply chain has more than 1 million workers. We do not own any facilities, so we work with factories, and we are working with more than 2,000 factories worldwide. So you can imagine the scope of the supply chain, which is huge. And many of those factories are in the developing world. And as also in other industries in the countries in the developing world, of course, you do not, like the governments, they don't have very stringent due diligence schemes, but as brands, we take responsibility to ensure that the clothes and the items coming out from these factories are made with safe and fair labor. We do a lot of things to ensure that CNA was one of the first companies in the fashion industry back in 1995 to have its own code of conduct. For sure, there is still a lot of things to be improved, and in fact, we welcome the upcoming sustainable corporate governance legislation because I think that this will set a level playing field. It is important that what comes out is in alignment with the OECD due diligence guidance, that it's not reinventing the wheel. But I think that it will definitely give incentives for the industry to really have one baseline when it comes to due diligence. I think that's it. I just wanted to give you the heads up that yes, we have a new global sustainability strategy coming out and a new sustainability report in July. So please check this out, and you will hear from the different social media about it. And I also invite the audience to visit we have a consumer-facing website on sustainability. It is embedded in our online shop, where you can see all the sustainability attributes of the products. So please visit that. It's a new one. It was launched in May. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Galina. Very interesting. It's honestly quite interesting to also see how many different aspects are actually taken into account by CNA, and to see what different aspects the consumer is actually facing. That might actually lead to a question I might want to ask. So what do you think the strategy will mean in the long term for the consumer in terms of seeing things maybe in the store or otherwise? We saw the cradle to cradle that you mentioned. Do you think that will maybe be expanded into different initiatives, or that we will see, for example, completely different fashion, maybe industry or cycle as a whole? So instead of just buying and just throwing it away, maybe we'll have a full-on circle within society that's actually changing this as a whole. Do you have any insight into this?
Yes, so I think that the consumers, which are, each of us, we buy clothes. That's, I guess, the common thing that all of us have in this call. I think what we will see with the textile strategy will be two things. So the first one will be related to sustainability labeling. So as I mentioned earlier, the idea is that the consumer finds it easier to shop more sustainable products rather than being lost with hundreds of different labels and certifications. So that's the aim, because as I gave an example, many people, they simply don't have the time to dig deeper. So you have like 30 minutes to shop, 60 minutes to shop, and you want to make sure that the brand has taken care of the sustainability of the product. So that's one thing. And the second is that through the EU textile strategy, I think that there will be a bigger offering of more sustainable products on the market. So right now there are sustainable products on the market, but compared to the contemporary or the conventional products, it's still a small share. And what the EU textile strategy wants to do is that it wants to incentivize brands and retailers to produce more products with recycled materials, to produce more products which are cradle to cradle, for example. And you really need the incentives because, and you need kind of the push because in fact, there isn't simply not enough recycled materials on the market. So that's one thing. Or it's very expensive. So you need the kind of the public or the public infrastructure for the system to work. And this is what the EU textile strategy wants to do. And in general, the circular economy action plan wants to, create this infrastructure. So in the end, when you go to the shop, for example, in 10 years, that's my hope, you will not have to choose between a sustainable product and a conventional one, but you will have 90% sustainable products and then maybe a bit of conventional ones.
Okay, that's very interesting, quite an insight. For all the people attending, you can ask any question to Galina as you want in the chat. Just post them in there, and we'll see if we can answer it. However, we do have a question already, Galina. First is from you now. Is CNA planning to move away from fast fashion practices?
So yes, it's thank you for the question. I receive this question, I think, almost every time. To be honest, we don't really, at CNA, we don't define ourselves as fast fashion. So there are other brands that are having many more collections on the market. Let's say 20, 24 collections every year, which is not the case with us. So in fact, we don't really define ourselves as fast fashion. What we want to do is we want to ensure that we offer affordable clothing for everyone. This has been actually back 180 years ago when the two brothers, Clemens and August, set up the company. This was the vision. And I think that when we speak about sustainability, this is what we need, right? We need affordable clothing that is sustainable rather than having like a niche product made of mushroom leather that only that costs 300 euros, right? So I would say that that's why I made this big disclaimer in the beginning that I don't want to leave the impression that everything is solved. For sure, there are things that we have to improve. And we're working hard to do that. But in a nutshell, we want to be able to offer sustainable fashion for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good goal. I think also it is a very good point that you're making. If it's going to be expensive mushroom leather, nobody can afford it. So then we won't be moving towards sustainability as is. So I think that's an absolutely great goal. And maybe another question as well, what do you think is a good way to help organizations transition towards more sustainability? Obviously, there's many different factors, as you mentioned, and the different initiatives CNA has done. What do you think are some of the key points or takeaways that a company would need to take into account when they're trying to go towards sustainability?
Well, I think that the most important is that the business and sustainability strategy needs to go hand in hand. In an ideal world, there shouldn't be a sustainability strategy. There should be only one strategy, and that's the business strategy, which is with sustainability embedded into that. So that's definitely the case. I think that what we have been noticing in the past maybe 10 years in sustainability is that those two things have been working side to side and not very close to each other. We still have companies that have, I don't know, like sustainability department that is embedded in corporate communications department. This doesn't work. You really need to have the business doing your sustainability strategy. And I can say that for CNA, we are starting to walk this path. And I think that the COVID pandemic has shown to the business the urgency of doing that. So that's also another external push that has happened in the past year and a half.
Okay, very well. We have another question from the audience from Sophie Aubert. When it comes to switching to more sustainable fibers, what are actually the main challenges for companies such as CNA? So how could companies from the industry work collectively together to overcome shared constraints? So maybe it's supply issue or maybe it's actually material issues.
Yeah, so it's an excellent question. Thank you, Sophie. So indeed, this is really a challenge. So I will tell you why. There are some brands, like for example, the sports brands they have a different way of supply. They have a different supply chain. They have different types of fibers, and most of them, they have kind of innovation and excellence centers where they invest a lot of resources into research. Because in order to have more sustainable fibers, you need to have a lot of resources into research and development. And many of the brands, it's not like automotive that you have these huge excellence centers where you work 10 years to get something. And in fashion, it's different. It's a fast moving industry. And what we have seen is that what has worked, at least for us, is that we're partnering with Fashion for Good. This is an innovation and excellence hub that is supporting fashion startups. Many of those startups, they are focusing on sustainable fibers, and we partner with many other brands there, like H&M, Zalando, PVH, and many others. And in fact, we contribute all together to this Fashion for Good Center, and we work with innovators. So you have like an innovator that is producing a leather from, or like a dye, like a color from algae. So then we work with that innovator to test the startup with CNA, and we see whether we can scale it up. So this is one way that we are seeking and making the path towards more sustainable fibers, and not only in CNA, that's also for many other brands. But it's a challenge, and in fact, the European Commission and the EU Textile Strategy, the textile industry as a whole is demanding more investment on research and development.
Okay, I think that's actually quite an unknown subject. I think nobody is directly thinking about research and development in the fashion industry, so that's actually a very good point.
Exactly.
Very good question, Sophie. You hit the nail on the head. Well, thank you very much. And I think actually, unfortunately, our second speaker, Nick, has had some personal matters to attend. However, I think it's quite a good bridge, Galina, that you mentioned about startups, because my colleague Margot can actually talk more about the Green Fashion Hub, as they also support startups and different possibilities for them. So welcome, Margot. And thank you, Galina, very much. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for this good transition. Yes, unfortunately, our guest speaker, Annick Jehan, had a personal emergency, but we really wanted to take the time to tell you a bit about her organization and how it would have been amazing to have her today, especially for today. Some of you may know, but as we speak in the French Senate, there is the vote of the new climate law. What does this climate law include would be an eco score. So this kind of label that Galina was mentioning already that will help you to make better choices in the shop towards more sustainable fashion, to sustainable textile. So this is at the French national level, and that has the potentiality to be expanded in the EU strategy for sustainable textile. It's actually mentioned that they want to encourage consumers to do better choices. Annick Jehan has more than 30 years of experience in the textile and fashion industry. She's the founder of Hub Mode, which is a training agency to help industry in the fashion and textile industry to make the switch towards more sustainable choices. She's also the president of the Fashion Green Hub. What is the Fashion Green Hub? It's more than 300 French fashion companies. They are located in the north of France, nearby Roubaix, the Plateau Fertile. So if you're around, we really encourage you to join their open doors this weekend. And I will try to share my screen, because if we do not have Annick, she did beforehand share with us her presentation. So at least we can give you a first look. Can everybody see my screen all right?
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you can put the PDF full screen. But...
Yes, exactly. I will put it full screen so we don't have to full screen mode. Yes. So as I mentioned, they have a gathering of more than 300 French fashion companies, including fashion brands such as Kiabi. And they mainly focus on training and research and development that was highlighted by the question of Sophie Aubert as well. So they work with different actors in France and in the region, including, as I mentioned, big brands that you may know as Kiabi, Cyrillus, Jules, or Le Slip Français even, which is French underwear. And with distribution like Galeries Lafayette, which is a large shop, and also with the Agency for the Ecological Transition in France. So what do we have? We have for the Fashion Green Days, they have the opening days this weekend, as I mentioned, and especially their goal is to work, as Sophie, I think we really like your question, which is how can companies of the same industry make the switch forward together? They are located in old weaving factories, so the buildings in where they are located has also a relation to the textile and fashion industry. And especially they provide training for companies of all sizes to help them to make more research, to work on new textile, new technology, and especially what is also mentioned in the EU strategy for textile, eco-design. So what is eco-design would be a design that can be easily fixed, that can be easily recycled. And I think at the moment we can really see a lot of initiative in this direction. So I did mention about an eco score for the French fashion clothing, but what is also interesting is like it touches all kind of sectors. So for example, on the 1st January of this year in France, we had the start of what we call the indice de réparabilité, which is how can your smartphone or the new electronics that you buy, how is it likely that you can easily repair it? And that's also something that we are looking forward to, would be to buy clothing and still enjoy clothing, especially that now we can go back to meet our friends, to go to restaurants, to travel, but also how can we maintain them and keep them for the long run. So they offered some services such as a lab and a manufacturing unit that will help you to prototype small orders, and that's for big brands to try new techniques, to try new technologies, and for larger brands to also work with their team on research and development, and for smaller brands to try and launch themselves. They do have a campus where they work for sustainable fashion jobs, so to help at the very start students who like start to get trained to the new concept, to the new techniques. And I did mention already the lab, and they also help design new projects on recycled yarn and textile and garment, which is also I think CNA has a very great initiative, and more brands are getting up in there to have like this waste and recycle collection in store. But also the question would be what happens once the clothing collected are collected? Can we reuse and can we offer a new design? So that's basically that for the Fashion Green Hub. We do encourage you to check them out on LinkedIn and on their website. And we hope that we can have Annick on board with us for our next event. But at the moment, that will be all on the Fashion Green Hub.
Thank you very much, Margot. Very interesting. I think that's honestly quite a really good explanation of what Green Fashion Hub is. I actually had maybe one last takeaway, or at least a question to Galina. We've obviously, on a short recap, we've seen the various difficulties within fashion, all the initiatives are being taken, all the things that are being done at the EU level. But what would your recommendation actually be to young professionals who are trying to get into the fashion industry or in the textile industry, or who are just generally interested in maybe in regards to sustainability or just general best practice you could maybe share with them, given it's possibly one of the best places for people to ask?
Yes, so my recommendation would be to build credentials. So you really, I think the challenge of young professionals in general, especially if it's about below 5 years of experience, is the fact that they don't have the strong credentials that can help them sell themselves to potential employers. So try to build this, study. I'm a big fan of studying. So try to make yourself attractive and create a very competitive profile, so that an employer can really see the difference in you. Try to build certain expertise in selected areas in fashion, sustainable materials or sustainable lives, related to, for example, supply chain workers. I mean, pick up some online courses, go through them, just really try to build your credentials, not in general, but specifically in certain areas. And I think that this would really help. I mean, what I have noticed, I have been interviewing many people for different positions, and primarily young people. What I have noticed is that, everybody is very well educated nowadays, very often studying abroad, speak several languages, but then when you try to pick the better one, like everybody is more or less at the same bar. It's a high bar, but it's the same bar. So if you want to distinguish yourself, just try to build credentials, so that you can be, let's say, a couple of bars higher, so that you could be attractive.
Yeah, so it's basically build credential, be unique, and really make yourself stand out there. Thank you very much. I believe we are almost actually running out of time. However, we would like to encourage you all to join us for our next events. Which one it is not yet 100% certain. However, there are plenty more that are actually going to be organized on various topics, automotive industry, for example. And if you've not done so, please join us on LinkedIn, follow us, Young Professionals Network. You should see us actually, as you found us already on LinkedIn probably. And then thank you very much for your participation. Thank you once more again to Galina and to Margot for these great stories. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Stay in touch with one another, maybe have a look who signed up for today, maybe you can see somebody or find somebody who you can work together with, or actually maybe share some thoughts. And then that will be it for today, and we will catch you for the next one. Thank you very much once more, and have a good day.